Welcome to Stitchery Stories, where textile artists share their life in fabric and thread, inspiration, techniques, disasters and delights. And I'm Susan Weeks, enthusiastic embroiderer and textile art dabbler who also loves podcasting. So take a break and enjoy our light-hearted chat, and please share with your friends so they can enjoy it too.
Hiya. You know, I'm not just someone who chats about embroidery and textile art. With my tech training superpowers, I make it faster and easier for creative people to create and sell online courses and digital products. Do you run in-person classes and workshops, and you want to boost your profits from your in-person classes? Well, I have a free gift for you. Grab your free 7-step guide and unlock your profits. Turn your in-person classes into online money makers. Learn how to get started and stop worrying about the tech. Grab this free time-saving video training course. Each step takes you closer to easier profits popping into your bank account. Your in-person classes are proven money makers, but costs are rising and they are a lot of time-sucking hassle. You want to reach more students, yet travel less. You want to release your valuable time. You want sensible, practical tech solutions, and you think that on-demand online courses could be the answer, and you want some proper training and support to do it. This 7-step video training course has been designed especially for you. Creating profitable, on-demand online versions of your popular in-person classes can be much faster and easier than you think it can. Grab this guide and you can do this. Head over to stitcherystories.com and hit the big orange button on the homepage. Simply add your name and email address for instant access to the course, and you can get started today. And now here is this week's fabulous guest. Hello and welcome today to our lovely guest, Hannah Thompson. Hi, Hannah.
Hi, Sue.
It's brilliant to talk to you today. We've just been having a bit of a laugh about various things that we'll be talking about when we get going. So I'm really pleased that Hannah reached out and gave me a prod, because I know that Hannah has been listening to Stitchery Stories from like day dot. I don't know why I know that, but I just do. You've just been in my world for a long time.
It's all those likes that I've given you over the years.
That must be it, yes. So thank you, Hannah. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting, because you've actually got quite a nice story as well. So we'll come on to that. Let me read your bio out before I waffle on too much. Right, so Hannah Thompson is a self-taught textile artist, and she's been crafting since childhood. And at school, she took GCSE in textiles, but didn't complete the course. Oh dear, I'm sure there's a story there. Even back then, her love was to interpret buildings in stitch and applique, and the idea of using textiles to represent such a solid structure really appealed and still does. And obviously, we've got various pictures from Hannah around those. Now, sadly, Hannah had left creativity behind through her early adult life. Don't we all kind of go a bit on the wayside with that for a while, until suffering a breakdown and a divorce in 2015. A dear friend invited her to an Embroiderers Guild meeting, and it sparked an interest and a desire to learn. The speaker that night had been stitching into plastic bags, and the sky really is the limit, therefore, when it comes to textiles, as we all know. Since then, she's immersed herself in all things textiles, attending workshops and stitching in company throughout that process. She's joined Embroiderers Guild, the Quilters Guild, and latterly the International Association of Felt Makers. And being part of these organisations offers opportunities to learn and to exhibit. Yeah, it really does. Hannah has a business, Stitching Kitchen, is now her main focus, and she offers a friendly and inclusive environment to stitch in company and to learn new skills. At the start of the business, she thought she would make and sell textile art and handmade items, but as the time progressed, she's found that sharing her skills and offering adults the opportunity to play while learning textile-based crafts was what she really enjoyed. The business is now situated in commercial premises in Brackley, Northamptonshire, just off the M40 and not far from the M1, importantly, and she now offers regular drop-in sessions, sewing and textile-based craft workshops. And, of course, you'll find all of Hannah's links on her episode of stitcherystories.com. And she is stitching kitchen everywhere, I think, aren't you, Hannah? Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Yep. Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, website, and YouTube. So go and find her, go and say hello. Say you met her, found out about her on Stitchery Stories. All very much appreciated. Right then, that's enough from me. My voice is already going before we've even started. Not good.
Oh dear.
Before we dive into various aspects of that really nice story, do you want to share with us what you're working on and what's got you excited, Hannah?
Well, at the moment, I'm working on something which is one of those bizarre kind of projects that falls in your lap. I am about to host a community art day with a Paralympian who's also an artist. We don't live far away from the home of the Paralympic Games, just outside Aylesbury,
Right.
the Stoke Mandeville Hospital.
Right, yes.
They have a spinal specialist unit, and it's where the Paralympic Games actually started. Now, by chance, their chief operating officer came to one of my printing demonstration workshop things.
Lovely.
And then my name was thrown in the hat. So when they rang up and said, would you host a community art day? I said yes. So that's going to be happening in a couple of weeks' time. And we had a discussion this morning. I think we're going to create some sort of woven piece based around the idea of wheelchair wheels.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm excited about at the moment.
Oh, now I did spot on Instagram you had some pictures about that, and I thought, what on the earth's going on there? Now we know.
It's a very strange one. So the whole idea of the project really is to celebrate the ceremonies and costumes.
Right.
So we've had a couple of talks, and we're going to have a talk from an athlete as well, describing and bringing along lots of costumes that people can touch and feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Artist Day, I think we've settled on wheels within wheels, which come up in quite a lot of the logos historically. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one.
That's really interesting. And how lovely. And again, I say this every time somebody tells me about something like this. You don't get found and you don't get opportunities by sitting in a corner and hiding. Sorry, life don't work like that. So,
no.
And sometimes it can be the strangest of coincidences. Someone like it's happened there. Someone's turned up to you were running a class. Someone's turned up to it. We've had people who've been asked a publisher a question. Next minute they know after an email thing they've been offered a book deal. It really can happen like that. So yeah, well, stop hiding, everybody. Rant over. Carry on, Hannah.
So yes, that's the kind of thing that's right at front of mind at the moment.
Yeah.
But then very shortly after that, we'll be opening the studio up for Buckinghamshire Art Weeks, and then in September for Northampton Open Studios. And I love that because people can just wander in. They can just wander in and have a look round and see what we've been making. And I'm not quite sure what I'm going to be showing them, but but yeah, there'll be that. And I also run quite a lot of workshops during those Open Studios weeks,
right,
so people can come and have a go and get hands on if they want to. So yeah, that's fun.
So with things like that, when obviously you're in your space now, I can see there's all sorts on the walls and piles of material and stuff going on. So we'll probably dive into this a bit more, but when you're hosting a lot of classes, is there a difference between, so you probably want to show some things from classes, but then there's like Hannah's art as well, which I guess sometimes can get a bit lost in the group thing.
Yeah, it can do. And because the workshops are what earns the money, I probably spend more time making things that are examples or making things during a class. And actually finishing a piece of art doesn't necessarily happen. And I've been making quite a lot of felt tiles, and they're beautiful to stitch into. But yet again, I've got another 16 I'm looking at on the draining board over there that are desperate to have some beads and things stitched into. And yes, but finding time to do that's really hard.
I think we'll definitely come into that. So other people who run a lot of classes have said a similar kind of thing, and quite often what they would, yes, obviously your examples and your classes are very much you anyway, but then sometimes the actual doing some art it's can be quite a challenge to kind of fit that in as well, I think. So yeah, you're not alone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky in that I'm part of the contemporary quilt group, and they have a lovely system where you have the commitment of agreeing to do journal quilts, which is a 1 a month small little art quilt.
All right, yeah.
So it's something that's manageable. You can get it done in a couple of hours if you're in a rush, or you can spend a couple of days on it. But it's just a once a month thing, and it's that regular program of doing a little bit of art, getting your practice out there, expressing a few ideas, and just keeping those wheels moving. So that's something that I've re-engaged with this year, which is working. So the third Thursday.
That's the day when it's like, oh hell, I've got to get my quilt done.
That's my quilt done.
I'm near Hull, so I'm a member of the Hull Embroiderers Guild, although anyone listening will be tutting because I haven't been all year. So, but for a few years we did the travelling books idea where you had a notebook, and you had the way we did it is each of us had our little A5 notebook, and we had a theme, and then we passed that book to another person, and they did something on our theme. So mine was, I'm fascinated by the images of landscape photography, taken from hang gliders and stuff like that. And there's a guy called George Steinmetz on Instagram. I absolutely love his aerial photos because he has them as a point of about food shortages and eco stuff, and it's the stories behind them all are fascinating. A lot of things to do with agriculture and stuff, global agriculture. I love his images. So I thought, that's going to be my theme. So everyone, right, you've got to go and look at his images and be inspired by something along those. And then what I liked about it was every month I got a new thing to have a go at. So, history or culture, or there's a fascinating range, sunrises, autumn, there's a fascinating range of topics. And we meet on a Saturday afternoon, so quite often when it was like, for Saturday of the month, Saturday morning, what was I doing? Or the Friday before, so it was always a couple of days before. I was always really proud of myself if I'd actually done something the week before the deadline. But it was really nice because for a long period of time, that was the only thing I did. I would sit down, and I really enjoyed, doing that. So that's a great idea, Hannah, I think, to be taking part in something where there's that regular, it's not overwhelming. It's not once a week, is it? Once a month, you really should be able to find, but a couple of hours to yourself, you might not find much more than that, but yeah,
that works well. And the interesting thing is that when I have opened the studio for art weeks, people have been really drawn to those projects because there's 12 little mini pieces of art that you can display together, and it tells a little story of that year or about the topic that you've chosen. So
we always found that with the travelling books, no matter where you went, if a branch was working through travelling books, they were always lovely to look at, and and obviously they soon grow out the notebook, don't they? The notebook finishes about 6 inches thick because it's full of all these lovely interesting pieces. So I used to really love doing those. Right, brilliant. So that's quite a lot to keep you excited anyway. And open studios and quilts and all sorts of things. Cool. So how did you actually get into all of this? Because you said you're self-taught, and we started off with GCSE textile art and didn't do that. So you've obviously moved on from that experience and taught yourself instead.
Well, I'm lucky to have come from a family of crafters, and my mum and my granny, they were both knitters, to a certain extent sewers. My mum will have a go at anything. She covered our dining chairs with a hide from a cow. She tanned a goat hide, I remember once. It stank in the garage. There were all these horrible chemicals.
Mum had a goat skin rug, and it always used to smell. Goats, doesn't matter what you do, it's always going to stink. Oh God. They
are very pungent animals. But so I grew up amongst it all. I think the first time I ever did any embroidery, though, was through the Girl Guides and the Brownies.
There was a sewing badge or something, wasn't there? I remember doing something like that.
So that was the first time I ever did embroidery, and I tried GCSE, but my very elderly GCSE tutor, I'm of the age where we were on the cusp of the change between the two, between O-level and GCSE.
Well, I did O-levels. I'm older than you.
Yeah, not by much, Sue, not by much. But this lovely lady, she hadn't quite grasped the idea of having a portfolio. So she was happy that I was in the class and doing something every week.
Yeah.
But then I looked at the exam criteria and thought, I haven't got a portfolio. I haven't got any supporting evidence. There's only 3 weeks until it all is handing in. I can't do this. So I decided to drop it and concentrate on, maths and English. And never completed it. But I did hold on to those pieces that hadn't got the supporting evidence, and they just sat in the loft until much later, when I was living in a rental house with nothing to put on the walls.
Oh, mine. I did. In fact, in those days, it was art and design, but you could do it in paper and paint. Oh, revolutionary! You could do it in textiles. So this is in 1981, and so I loved doing that, because I used to do all these like weird and wonderful things. And so there might be a week where we're going to do tie-dyeing. And I did a bright pink tie-dyed. I turned it into a jellyfish, right? Can you imagine? So it had all this like weird, all this crazy couching and stuff. And then, the tangly bits was like any random bit of pink wool, thread, string, God knows what, all kind of like couched on the bottom of it. It's just like bonkers. I was always making bonkers stuff like this. And then, one friend was like knitting baby cardigans and this kind of thing, what I mean? So it was like, it was so funny. What the hell are you doing? Oh, right, I'm making a jellyfish. But my stuff finished up in Mum's loft, and then I totally forgot about it. And then when I was living in France, it's about 10 years since I've been back. About 12 years ago, she turned up one day in her car. I brought all your artwork. Oh, for goodness sakes. It was like kind of not quite mouldy, but it's like, how things smell in lofts. I really hate stuff going in lofts. So that's really kind of you. I thought it like being lost a long time ago, and I think it probably went on fire. I just come by and smell of it. I am awful for doing stuff like that. I do have one photo though, of me looking really gawky with my exhibition. So anyway, so obviously you moved on from the trauma of not having a portfolio. So what was next in your journey then, Hannah?
Well, then, like I said, I didn't really do anything creative for quite a while. Life took over. I ended up doing a chemistry degree, working as a laboratory technician, and then tumbling into the world of recruitment, which I think everybody tumbles into the world of recruitment. You don't choose to be a recruiter. It wasn't until I suppose I started a family, and you get the opportunity to draw Peppa Pig a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just starts to spark something, and you think, oh, actually, I do quite like this creative thing. And
I remember now, yes.
And then, as I had all of the children, I've got 3. I then, a whole random set of things happened, including a house fire, a mental breakdown, and a divorce. And
sounds like me, but I didn't have the house fire.
It was a difficult time. But a really lovely girl who I'd met through Mums and Tots and had done glitter sticking with, said, my mum and I go to Embroiderers Guild. Would you like to come? And it's on Thursday night. That's one of the days your ex-husband has the kids. Come along on Thursday night. And I did. I didn't know what to expect. Everybody was lovely and friendly.
Yeah.
And this amazing artist stood in front of us, and she talked us through her city and guilds and how she'd stitched into plastic bags.
Yes.
And I was just flabbergasted, but inspired. And that was it. I was straight on the internet. Where can I do a degree in textiles? What can I do? And it didn't quite pan out that.
Yeah.
But I just became like a textile groupie, I suppose. And I was rushing around trying to get to as many little workshops as I could, and listening to podcasts and going on YouTube and just learning as much as I could, and just immersing myself and having lots of fun and meeting some really incredible people in the process.
Yeah, definitely. I know when a similar kind of thing 20 odd years ago now, I suppose, the career was all tied up with husband, and we were on the management team of a fast-growing software company. And oh God, I was away in London teaching. I've done a lot of in-person teaching as well, but it's been teaching people how to program. I got packed off to India to go and teach people out there. It was just like, oh my God. And my life just fell apart, really. And I realised now I was also burnt out. And so I kind of laugh about it, but it was bloody hard work at the time. Was in the month, I think it was October 2003. So we'd been separated about a year anyway, more than that, 2 years, I guess. So anyway, the divorce went through, which meant I could then resign from my job. So I just had enough. The house, therefore, was sold. And I thought, oh, ace, right, I've got some money, I've got some time now, I'm 39, I can do what the hell I want. Marvellous. I had all these plans. And then the last thing that happened in that month, I was then discovered I was pregnant. That wasn't part of the plan at age 39. So it was like, oh my God. And then this like crazy life carried on from there. But at that time, the point was, I loved going to York Embroiderers Guild, and same thing, meeting new people. It was absolutely nothing to do with anyone in financial services, software, programming, computers, men. It was like nothing. It was like really great to just go, where are you going? Oh, I'm off to Embroiderers Guild and I'm going to have a lovely time. Thank you very much. So yeah, it's being part of creative groups, I think, is the point here, isn't it? Can be an absolute lifesaver. And I'm sure there's lots of people nodding their heads that they've been through trauma, upset, whatever, and have found a great deal of solace in being part of a group. So, and of course, now you get to do that all the time, don't you? Because you're running groups yourself. So how lovely is that?
It is. And I think that's kind of the whole point of the business, really. And my vision was always about being able to offer people a safe space where they can come and they can talk if they want to, but they don't have to.
Gossip's not compulsory.
It's not compulsory. I offer cake. They don't have to eat it. They choose to eat it. And it's just a safe space, really inclusive. Anyone can come and just, they might come and learn something. They might just come to one of the sit and stitch sessions, or one of my ladies now runs a coffee and craft on a Tuesday night. So she brings along a little project each time, and it's just, nice and easygoing, and people can just come and sit and chat and leave. No expectation. They don't have to come. There's no commitment. And it just goes from there. And if people want to come and learn how to do a particular skill, I run lots of different workshops. And again, it's about encouraging people and helping people to learn and express themselves in a slightly different way. And I do try and encourage those people that are very, very keen to get everything perfect. They really don't need to. It's only a bit of fun. It doesn't have to be perfect. Yes, I'm currently, I do, because people ask me to, I do teach some quilting, but I am not Mrs. Accurate. I am not somebody who is pernickety about my half square triangles meeting perfectly on point. I encourage people and I tell them how they can achieve this.
Yeah.
But don't look closely at my quilts. They're never. I'm more about the colour and the expression, and the I like to use fabrics that hold a memory as well. And I think that's one of the things I love about textiles is you can add in little memory pieces into either a piece of art or a quilt. And so I'm more about that element than necessarily things looking perfect. So I'm a bit of a rogue when it comes to quilting.
Well, I have to say I've never. The only quilt I've made was, going back to O-level textile art, was a single quilt, and it was like calico or something. And then I sprayed it. I used to go in on a lunchtime. I nearly said dinner time then, but I used to go in on dinner time and go and spray it. So it was sprayed in like purple, pink, and blue. So I had a little garden spray, and I'd spray it with dye on the summer, to get this like speckledy effect that had built up over about 2 weeks. And my friends thought this was hilarious because if it was raining, we were allowed to go inside. Can we go inside? I've got to go and do my art. You know what I mean? So it's like, so we'll come with you. And So I did that. And then what I did was I appliqued a fungus in velvet in purple, pink and blue. So I made this like a bracket fungus in velvet and realised that, oh my God, trying to applicate velvet's a nightmare. I don't think I used stabiliser because I probably couldn't afford it or didn't know it existed. And oh my God. Anyway, so I created, so that was my one and only quilt, this great big appliqued velvet fungus. Oh my God. So no star points needed.
No, definitely not. No.
And I think that's the only thing I've ever done. And vaguely a quilt. So yeah. But I do greatly admire quilts. And it was only when I was following, I think it was when I was talking to Vendulka, an earlier guest, that I realised that people painted on them as well. Because I was like, how the hell have they got that really brilliant fabric? How I couldn't see how it had been done. Yeah, it's because it's been painted to get with the times.
Yeah. And
amazing. That just like, ooh, I didn't know that. And there's loads of things in quilting I have no idea about. So I just love looking at them because it's a whole different range of techniques.
Yeah, Vendulka's quilt, I think she was one of the winners last year.
She was, yes.
Absolutely stunning. Yeah. But you say about painting onto quilts. I've also been encouraged to paint onto felt, which has completely blown my mind.
Oh, how does that work?
The pieces behind me have got stitch on them. And then the last prompt on this challenge that we were doing was to get some acrylic paint and paint over the top. So you stitch lines in, but you can also paint on top of it. And it kind of takes things right into that mixed media field.
Yeah.
So you can kind of start from a very textile basis, stitch into it, add your beads, add whatever you want. And then if you want to, get a Posca pen, wax some paint on the top. Incredible.
Oh, yeah, no. Oh, every day's a school day, isn't it? We always learn things. I know.
Why it's so good for our heads.
Yeah, exactly. So you've obviously really developed over the years your love of teaching and things. So what prompted the move? Obviously you were called Stitching Kitchen, and clearly now you're not sat in a kitchen here. So, what was the story behind? Because now you can have the benefit of having your space, can't you? As you say, you're not carting stuff around. People can come to you, and that, I suppose, has given you a whole range of things that you can occupy yourself with from morning till night every day of the week if you wanted to.
Yes, if only there were that many hours in the day. The sort of sequence of events were that things were growing, and then we went into lockdown.
Yes.
And towards the middle end of the second lockdown, my dear father decided to say, well, you can have a little bit of your inheritance early.
Very handy.
Yeah, very good. And it coincided with the fact that I knew that very sadly my daughter's father died last year, and I knew that they would have to, once he passed, they'd have to live with me full time.
Yeah.
And so therefore running the business from home wasn't really going to work, because trying to keep part of the house as a studio was never going to be particularly. And to grow the business, that would have meant moving, kit and caboodle to go and deliver a workshop somewhere else. And that wasn't going to work.
Really hard work too. Hats off to everybody who does that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, their lists must be amazing to get the right things in the car. But yeah, so that was sort of the crux where I was. So that's probably about just over 2 years ago.
Right.
So then I started on the quest of trying to find a commercial premises. And I live in a lovely little town, but the marketplace, as a lot of little towns, is quite run down. And I looked at a few premises actually right in the centre, but they're all derelict. It's really sad. So this place came up on the industrial estate, which has the advantage of being a big white box. And having parking spaces.
Well, there we are. That's always handy, isn't it? Yeah,
it is, and it's not far off the bus route. So, so I've now got this fantastic creative textile space, and the bonus of having a sewing studio as well. So I've started liaising with several different sewing tutors and inviting them in to teach people how to fit clothes to themselves, how to work with stretch fabrics and make perfectly fitting leggings.
I saw all of those actually. I thought, that's interesting, because I wasn't aware that you were that you were doing dressmaking. So that's why you're doing dressmaking.
Yeah. So the dressmaking is kind of using the rest of the space.
Yeah.
And therein lies a problem, because of course people, you always have to deliver what people want to buy, and people want to buy dressmaking, but I want to do textile art. So I keep toing and froing between the two, but I found a couple of really, really wonderful sewing tutors. So they're really leading that side of the business forward, and allowing me to explore more of the textile art. And I will be inviting a few more artists to come into the studio and deliver their expertise as well. So
that's exciting, isn't it?
That's exciting too.
The delights of having a premises. It's it can be a double-edged sword, of course, Oh yes, because you've got the pressure of there's a baseline cost that you need to pay off every month. You've got your fixed costs, haven't you, to meet, and then there's been things like heating and stuff like that, I should imagine.
Yes, and electric bills. Yuck.
God, yeah.
It's been a really interesting journey, and it's starting to really pay off. And I think I mentioned when we were chatting earlier, Sue, the thing that's really made it help over the last sort of 6 months or so, I decided to get some help to work with a consultant on the social media side.
Oh, well, can I just say at this point, big gold star to you, Hannah. Bringing somebody in to help can often be the catalyst to help you grow. So go on then, tell me the story. I'm all ears.
Well, I recognised that, I tried to put a notice in the local magazine, and that didn't really work. And word of mouth works, but it works very slowly. And, getting my mailing list up, and I just felt I really didn't have the skills to get to the next level.
Right.
To really I was offering all these lovely workshops, but they weren't all full,
Right.
And
it needed a kick.
It did need a kick. And I met this lovely lady. Funnily enough, I think a lot of these people tend to do little freebies. And so she'd done a freebie session, and I just clicked with her, and best decision I ever made. So she's taught me about the fact that really you don't need to spend hours and hours and hours on your social media, but what you do need to do is to plan it, is to be consistent. And the consistency is what makes the algorithms work. Because if you're not consistent, Facebook doesn't show people what what you're trying to share.
That's sure, I need to get a lot. I bet everyone's going, oh yes. I mean, I know I need to get more consistent with stuff. So
it does make a huge difference. And you don't have to be everywhere. That's the other thing. If you've got one platform that you love working on, stick with it. But do it every day, or do it 3 times a week, and do it consistently. And then, over the weeks and months, she's kind of added in, now, if you can brand things, keep your color palette, and if you can be consistent, and if you can, and give things time. There's no point putting 6 posts out all on one morning, because they don't have time to flourish.
Absolutely. All you've trained it then is that you're going to do 6 posts a day, and your posts only need to last for an hour. That's exactly what you train it to do. So be patient, spread it out.
Be patient. Let it do its thing, and then the next day do something else, or later on do something else. So it's been really good, and it's made me feel a lot different about it. I said to her the other day, I've learned that social media is a little bit like the old style press. Today's news is tomorrow's chip paper, and sorry to anyone overseas who doesn't know what I'm talking about, but we used to eat our fish and chips in
newspaper. We did. I used to work in a fish and chip shop when I was a teenager. My hands were black from wrapping them up in newspaper. Exactly. I am not old.
It sounds revolting these days, doesn't it?
Well, we didn't die from it, did we?
We didn't. But
anyway, So back to social media, it doesn't last.
Social media, it doesn't last. I mean, they say, obviously nothing ever disappears, but equally, if you put out something and you don't feel that it's the best work you've ever done, tomorrow's another day,
It doesn't matter because, well, let's be honest, so many people won't have even seen it, so don't get stressed about it, And if loads of people have seen it, well, that's a nice problem to have, and anyway, they won't have noticed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's like, people just don't pay attention that closely to what we're doing, what we look like. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about that either. They really don't.
They don't. And they do only spend a few seconds looking at things. So
exactly.
Whatever you put out there has to deliver the message quickly. Yeah. So whether it's a picture or a few words, you need to get your message out really fast. Yeah. So don't overthink it. Be consistent and do ask for help. There are lots and lots of people out there that can help you. And if necessary, ask a teenager. They know everything.
Although they don't understand about marketing. That's the thing.
That's
teenagers might be able to tap and post, but actually they have no idea about marketing either. So and you're going to get teenagers speak as well, which is really not great.
Oh yeah, that's not my target audience.
Oh dear. What was the format of the help that you got, Hannah? Did she teach you what to do? Has she been doing, there's different levels of help, isn't there, that people could use?
It's really interesting. So the lady that I used offered what she called a VIP system, where we actually had a weekly meeting.
Right.
So she'd talk about one aspect of social media, and then we'd have the week to put it into practice, and we'd have a catch up. So we had a weekly meeting, which was absolutely brilliant for me.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll discuss this again in a moment, but I need a deadline. If I don't have a deadline, it doesn't happen.
Done. Yeah, exactly.
And she also offers a system where you can give her instructions and logos, and her team will do your social media for you.
Yeah,
obviously that's quite expensive, but there's that option too. And then various different bits of training that you can listen to and learn about how what works on different platforms. And
so you've done a mixture of stuff then, really, by the sound.
But it's that having that weekly kind of meeting and catch up is the bit that really helped me.
Right.
And it's like anything that you do, whether it's a new exercise regime or a new diet or whatever, it takes a few weeks for it to bed in.
Habit.
So it's getting that habit in place. But I've also learned that I'm incredibly impulsive. So this whole planning, she said, what have you got in the plan for next month? And I'll look at her blankly going, well, next month hasn't happened yet.
But in 10 minutes, I'm really desperate to post this thing. I've just had a bright idea for.
Yeah, but I am beginning to realise that actually I do, and in terms of the social media, but also in terms of the business, I need to plan, because being impulsive and just going for it only gets you so far, because then you start dropping important things and deadlines and things. So
yeah, exactly. And I think it can be very easy to feel, and certainly over the last few years, to feel as if you've got no control. Oh God, you can sit there and thinking, I have no control because of power and wars and COVIDs and all these other things, and this thing's getting cancelled, and oh my God, my marriage has fallen apart, and you feel as if you've got no control. But you actually do if you sit down and say, my business is under my control. It's not under anybody else's control. It's under your control. And so the only person in charge of where your business is going is you. And so you do have control, because you can then decide, right, where's money coming from? Well, that's under your control, because that depends on what you get out there and sell, what events you put yourself out for, what kits you're doing, or all of it is all down to you. So we have massive amounts of control, actually, although I know it can feel as if we truly don't. So even with the social media, you can still be looking. Oh God, planning a month in advance feels like a nightmare. Yes, I'm sure everyone's holding their hand up at that. But again, if you've got your plan of what events you're going to or running or whatever, that should feed into your social media. And I'll share this. I don't know where I saw it or read it. I mean, I'm constantly listening to things and learning, so it could come from anywhere. But quite often people say, I need help because I've got a social media problem. No, what in most cases you have is a business problem. Because if you have got nothing to say and you don't know what's coming up, that's because you haven't planned anything to come up. And I think when people can think about it in those terms, it's not a social media problem, it's a business problem. If you don't know what's coming up and you've got nothing to say, that's down to you, and that's your business problem, not anything to do with social media. So
yeah, and it's been interesting. In the 6 months, I went from I'm not quite sure what to say to now I'm like, oh, I've got too much to say.
Too much to say, yes.
I don't want to put it all out now. I'll have to space it out over the next few weeks. And that's lovely. It's really changed the way I'm using it. It's another tool, but social media really is a marketing. It's a marketing tool for us.
Yes, absolutely.
And press doesn't work in the same way as it used to do, and so therefore we need to just use other avenues, and in collaboration with word of mouth as well. So not everybody
which is the old-fashioned social media, isn't it? That's word of mouth is old-fashioned social media. Folks sitting around a table chatting and telling each other, that's social media before the computers got involved. Or Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, so that's been really transformational for me and the business. So a long way to go, but that's now bedded in. That's part of what I do. So I wish I was doing a bit more stitching, but that's important too. So
it truly is. Again, we all may want to just go and sit in a corner and stitch all day. Although I have to say, I couldn't physically do it. I can't sit still long enough. So yeah, I'd like to do a bit, but not spend hours. But if you're running a business, you cannot do that. That is a hobby, and you have to do that. Right, I'm going to be really nosy now. So you have got this bedded in now. Have you noticed a difference for your business? Because we can spend hours on social media and it's just a complete time suck. So have you nailed this aspect of it then, Hannah, would you say?
Yeah, it's been amazing. So revenue doubled in 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I hope you're all listening, everyone. Wow.
It was incredible. I really didn't, I set off going, I'd like things to increase a bit. Maybe by a 10%, 20% maybe. But no, it doubled. Wow. And it was about that step change of, having somebody supporting, but also rather than me thinking, oh, goody, 2 people have signed up. That's so exciting. It was that, rather than thinking, oh, goody, 2 people have signed up. It's been, there's 2 spaces left. Let's tell everybody about it.
Aha.
That's the step change.
That is the big change. That's you.
Yeah.
That's you taking control and you being in control of, and I guess not being afraid of saying, oh, I've got this thing. It's for sale. Come on, get your backsides down here. There's 2 seats left.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that change between here's what we're doing to you're going to miss out if you don't hurry up.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Oh, you know what's going to happen now, don't you? You're going to have a big swamp of all these people coming to see what you're doing.
Oh, fantastic. The more the merrier.
So go and spy on Hannah and say you heard her telling us all on Stitchery Stories, and she'll love you forever.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Hannah, for sharing that with me about the social media, because it's just an ongoing problem. The other thing I quite like to throw in the mix is, like we've just said, social media doesn't last forever, and it's it is transient. And when you think about how most people find things, people will default to us go and have a look in Google, and no Google searches ever bring up, very, very rarely, or bring up something from Instagram. It could do, but it rarely does. So that's why things like blogging and YouTube and Pinterest, that's a search engine as well. And I know you're busy on there as well. So think about that. Think about where people are looking to find the thing that you offer. Because frankly, I quite often would think to myself, right, I could do with finding, I don't know, textile artists in North Yorkshire or something. Oh my God. I mean, that should be the easiest thing in the world to find. So quite often, if not you, but generally anyone listening is thinking, oh God, nobody ever finds me. Try and find yourself and try and find how findable you are. If you've got premises, use things like a Google My Business, Google Business Profile, and there's other ways to get found. But social media is really helpful for that getting interest and urgency and that kind of thing. They're two totally different ways of getting found on the internet.
They are. I've noticed that Google pick up on Facebook events, and I think on Eventbrite events as well.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I do now is I follow up everybody who comes along and does something here, does a workship. They're invited to leave a Google review. So that will help.
Yes.
So it's absolutely that feedback and I suppose customer satisfaction, and because we never buy anything without checking out the reviews, do we? So
that's right. Yeah.
You know, if you are in business, it's worth asking people for those reviews. I know we all hate getting those emails. We absolutely, and I get so cross with FIFOs and all the rest of it, but it does make a difference. So if you ask people nicely in person or online, just ask them nicely. And even if 1% of them do it, it will help your visibility as well. So
it truly does. It truly does. And do you know what, though? The other side of things is it helps you get found as well. So if you leave a review on Google My Business, then, and especially if you use leave photos as well, then you get found as well. So there's a lady in my town, who runs this fabulous plant shop called Botany Boutique, because it's indoor plants and sells a lot of art and crafts and stuff like that as well. Art. And I got these brilliant plants from her for my mum, and my brother, unbeknown to me, had bought this fabulous circular thing to put plants on. And we both turned up. So I turned up with these plants, indoor plants. He turned up with this fabulous thing to put indoor plants on. It was like, wow, this is amazing. She goes, oh, you've been doing this together. No, it was absolutely completely coincidental. So I took some photos of this thing with these plants on, post it on there, and then I keep getting these messages from through Gmail. Oh, 300 people have viewed that, or 100 people have viewed that photo, and so that then takes them. Sometimes we can be found through the strangest of things, is all I'm saying. So again, putting photos and giving somebody a review can also help yourself as well. So, and it doesn't have to cost us. Supporting other small businesses doesn't have to cost money. It can sometimes be just 5 minutes, 2 minutes of your time to leave a review. So, yeah, and we all do a happy dance when that happens, don't we?
Oh, we certainly do. Yes, absolutely.
So, Hannah, that's all really great about your premises and the way you really seem to have really kicked it into another gear with your with your business. So, is there any particular, I don't know, I quite often ask about inspirations or high points. Is there anything that kind of springs to mind with regards to those?
See, having just discussed that sounds like a high point, doesn't it? The doubling the business.
It truly is, yes.
It really is. It really is. But on a textiles sort of front, probably a couple of the high points were opportunities to exhibit. So in the early days, I put a seascape forward for a textile art exhibition which happened in Chester, and I absolutely loved going to see it on the wall in a gallery. It makes a difference.
Best feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, it really
truly is. And I think you've entered some of the Embroidery Guild challenges as well, because I'm one of those people who do that as well. So so you've done that kind of thing as well.
Yeah, so it's lovely to see them at the Knit and Stitch or at the NEC. And
it's
see
brilliant. And you stand there going, oh, look, I've got a PC. That's me.
You take a little photo.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, of course, I would never be exhibiting anywhere like that, but it's just like, oh, look, and your friends all think you're great, don't they? Oh, aren't you good? It's only because we entered the challenge.
But then I did get one piece that has got into a juried piece, which was for the European Quilt Association. And back in 2018, they had a challenge to make something that was kind of like A3 size, I guess.
Yeah.
And the title was Boundaries. And lots of people had done kind of international boundaries and borders and maps and things. But for me at the time, because of what had been going on in my life, my boundaries were about the safety of my home. So I kind of did a plan of the house with all the garden walls and hedges and things around it. And because it was a little bit different, I think, got in. So that piece went to the Festival of Quilts, but then it went off on a little tour around Europe. And
that's really exciting when that happens, isn't it? Yeah.
I have no clue where this quilt went. But off it went for about 18 months, and then eventually it came back to me. And yeah, it was that was probably a real high point, knowing that a piece of my work was in the magazine and then it had gone off around Europe was a real achievement. So that's probably one of the things I'm really proud of.
Yeah, and obviously you said you're in various groups as well, so they've obviously been a big part of your creative journey from a point of view of helping you kind of cope with things and to get out there and develop your skills and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's really great that you're then providing that same opportunity to others as well to be part of groups. That must be very satisfying.
It is, and I think sometimes, I mean, I've got the great excuse that I can put down my membership to all of these groups as a business expense now.
Good point.
But I know other people to join the Embroiderers Guild or the Quilters Guild. It's actually a chunk of money that is difficult to justify if you don't feel you're getting something back that's really tangible and good for you. So to be able to share what I'm learning with others, and to share that enthusiasm that I get through listening to lectures or virtually meeting artists or getting the opportunity to see things through, I think we discussed very briefly earlier, I'm in a habit now of going up in August. Part of my summer holidays to go to Festival of Quilts in Birmingham.
Yes.
And I get in for free because I steward. And anyone can do this. You don't have to be a member of anything.
For the guild as well, for knitting and stitching. So it's marvellous, isn't it? I love doing it for lots of reasons, not just the fact that you get in free. But
you get in free. But for me, that's the secondary, because I should say that you get to actually spend a couple of hours in one gallery.
You do, yeah.
Really looking, and you get to really look at the colours and the techniques, and you can really choose what your favourite is in each of the galleries, and then you get to chat to other people that are enthusiastic about stitching.
That's the bestest bit, isn't it? I love doing that. It's just so fabulous, because when you stood there, sometimes you think, what am I going to talk about? Well, you don't have to talk about anything other than, oh, that's a lovely colour. Oh, do you like that one? And you can just kind of, in effect, witter on inanely all day.
It's brilliant.
Fabric and thread. It's absolutely fabulous, isn't it? It's so enjoyable.
It's absolutely great. So that's part of my calendar every year now, as I go and do a couple of days up at the NEC in Stewart, and I think that fuels my enthusiasm, and I come back with lots of ideas. Either things that might end up as workshops that I'll share the information with other people, or it might just sort of filter into my own textile practice. Yes, I had it often takes me about 18 months to actually use the things that I've bought up at Festival of Quilts.
Only 18 months? I've got stuff in bags that's been there 20 years.
So yes, I know I've got a fancy free motion couching foot that I bought last year for my sewing machine. Not touched it since, but it was a brilliant lecture.
Was it an absolute bargain as well, the thing? No, very expensive. No. Still sat there in its nice little box. Yes. Looking at you through its plastic cover.
It's saying I need to be used. I was an investment. I'm not just a toy.
Not born to be sat in a box somewhere. Oh, right. Well, there you are then. That can be a challenge for one of your monthly challenge pieces. Get that. There you are. Then.
Yes, get that couching foot.
Yes, get your couching foot out and do it for your next month's thingy that you're going to do.
The journal quilt. That's a really good idea.
And do you post those on social as well? Can we have a nosy to see if you've done
it? Now, I'm not sure whether it's a closed group or not, but they do end up on my Instagram feed as well. But the guild has like a closed group for people that were involved in the challenge. So we share them on there. But I must say the February one I'm not very proud of, but it's all part of the process, isn't it?
Indeed,
you have some that work well and others that were a good idea but didn't quite come together as you wanted them to.
But that's how we learn. That's the only way we learn. How do we learn to walk? By kind of wobbling around and falling over, and finally we can do it. We don't learn to walk by reading a book about it or anything else. We learn to walk by doing it, and it goes wrong more times at the start than it does. Finally, off we go. And then we think, wow, it's like riding a bike, isn't it? That takes forever as well sometimes. Then you think, woohoo, I can do it now. God, it was forever when my son was doing it. But but what you can post, of course, is you can get your thing out and go, oh, look, this is this fancy foot that I was talking about on this Stitchery Stories.
I'll do that.
I'm going to get it out. Oh, and here's the fabric I'm going to use on it. Even if you don't show the show the finished thing because you're not allowed, you at least, you've got it out there. So, yeah. Right then, Hannah. So obviously you're busy with your premises. You've got a schedule of events. You've got these exciting projects coming up with your Paralympians and all those kind of things. And I do believe you mentioned that you needed a deadline. So what's going on there? How much of a deadline do you need? Are you a desperate last minute mini, or do you try and kind of plan a bit ahead?
I do try. I'm one of these people that doesn't do well if I don't sleep. So I can't pull an all-nighter.
No, I'm rubbish. I'm rubbish. I could never do that. Even when I was a student, I couldn't do all-nighters. I
just can't do it. I just can't do it. I can't function without a decent amount of sleep of a night. So what I tend to do is if I choose to get involved in something, I kind of look at it and think, okay, right, the deadline's there, and try and give myself some reminders. And I'm just looking over to the other side of the studio because there's some paper over there and I know there's some dates on it. And I kind of assess, okay, am I going to get this done in time? And I have to confess, the latest Embroiderers Guild one that I did, which was called Layers, had a deadline on it. And I was working, I had this great idea. I'd made a piece of felt, lots of different layers in it. And then I realized that was not going to happen by the deadline. And I quickly did a U-turn and put something else together that I could achieve in the deadline. So, without the deadline, it doesn't get done. So
I even missed that one, the layers, because I was thinking, because obviously I'm by the sea here and we're falling into the sea. So I thought, look at all the layers in the cliffs, and took some loads of photos of what I was going to do. And anyway, that was that. It just never happened. I didn't even get anywhere near to getting anything sent off. So sadly, layers didn't have my contribution.
Didn't happen. No, well, mine ended up being a landscape rather than a relief. Funnily enough, it would be something that it was a kind of an aerial view thing, the original idea. So that hasn't got finished. The next one that I'm mulling over at the moment, and I do find it needs a bit of mulling over, is I'm going to have to double check the dates because I'm not sure if I'm going to achieve it or not, but I hope I will.
It's going to be another one you're going to miss.
It's about diversity, and I think that's a Quilters Guild title. But they often give you dimensions as well, so they give you there's parameters. So my thoughts are happening, and I'm thinking pride flags and things because they keep getting wafted around in my peripheral vision, so that might happen, but it might not. Who knows?
Who knows what happens with deadlines? And I know when we were chatting before, there's also the aspect of deadlines with courses as well, isn't there? So there's that whole aspect of, obviously you're running workshops and there's a deadline because it's 12 o'clock and it's like lunchtime now and we're done kind of thing. But then there's that thing of how you can provide things online for people and have deadlines or not. And I guess it's that flexibility. Some people don't need deadlines, others hate them. It's like, I suppose being able to offer something that everybody can get enjoyment out of.
Yes, I think so. And there's also the aspect of, my availability in the week. Is when the kids are at school and then one evening and the odd weekend, and that doesn't work with everybody as well. So it's trying to make sure that, as many people as possible can kind of benefit without, deadlines are, it's really tricky. It's really tricky. You can't please everyone is the other thing. So you just have to do really what works. It's I suppose the nice thing about the online thing is that there isn't a set time. You can be a little bit more flexible.
People can come back to it when they can fit it in with their life, I suppose. And there's never an ideal time to run any event. There's always somebody will go, I can't ever do the first Thursday, or that I can only do the second Wednesday. No, I can't do the second Wednesday. Oh God. So again, it's back down to control, isn't it? It's your business, your control, and you do it really sound selfish, but to suit you, because any other way isn't going to suit you, and so therefore you won't do it. So yeah, that's there we are, back to control and what you can do, because it's your business at the end of the day.
Yeah, and everybody has different pressures, don't they? So it's trying to juggle everything. So
it is,
yeah.
So there we are. Right. Well, do you know, Hannah, it's been really, really brilliant speaking to you about your journey and you know, kind of how your business is growing and the actions that you've taken recently to, you know, really focus, I think, probably more than ever before on that aspect of it, but also, you know, still taking and making those opportunities as well that you've got, like with the Paralympics and things. You know, it's fabulous.
Yeah, there's so much ahead of us, and I think because textiles is such a wide topic, you know, the business and textiles itself, everything could go in so many different directions. It's quite exciting. So it's about tying yourself down to which direction you're going to go in next.
And that's the opposite side, isn't it? It's like, you know, having that again back down to control and focus of like, well, I could do all these millions of things. What are the million things am I going to do? Because really, it's infinite, isn't it? It's absolutely, the things you can do is really infinite. So yeah, which I think is what keeps us all chatting on about it quite as much as we do. And why we love it all. Brilliant. Hello, everyone. Well, first of all, I'm kind of laughing because I'm actually doing an update here with poor old Hannah, who we had a fantastic chat months ago, and then she languished on my hard drive. And so we're having a bit of an update today because I'm determined the minute we finish today, this bit's going to get added on. It's going out tomorrow. So, woohoo. However, silly old me didn't even hit record when we've just recorded our update. So now we're recording our update for the second time, actually with the recording button on. And I'm even sitting here looking at my microphone with the big label on that says, switch on the microphone. So, well, it was switched on, apart from I just didn't hit record. Silly old me. Anyway, welcome back, Hannah, for about the 58th time now.
Oh, at least I've definitely been put at ease now, Sue, because we're just giggling away here. So no problem.
It's all gone to pot. Oh, dearie me. Right. Anyway, everybody else has just like already listened to the conversation that we've just had, but we had it months ago. So just a quick recap. I was just so thrilled about the stories that you were sharing with us. And obviously, since you have sadly languished on my hard drive, I thought, right, let's do a bit of an update. And so just to get us back up to speed again, the thing that you were really working towards was your community day, your community art day with the Paralympic athlete, and you had all sorts of plans. You were thinking about doing a circular theme and so forth. So how did that go?
Oh, Sue, it was such a lovely day. It was a really lovely situation where there were people from the Paralympic Heritage Trust that came along. There were people that are local to the studio that hadn't been before. There were existing customers, and there were people that had disability themselves that came along as well. And Christina Vasey, who was the artist that we worked with, she designed this fantastic circular design, which was sort of reminiscent of a wheelchair wheel.
Yeah.
And also bringing in elements from the 2012 Paralympic ceremony back in London.
Yeah.
And so we all each person that was there on the day made a large Dorset button, and they look a little bit like wheelchair wheels.
Yes.
And it meant everybody could put their own spin on it, so they could choose their own colours and textures and that sort of thing. And we just had a really lovely day sharing stories. And you know what textiles are like. It brings out the best in everybody, and everybody wants to get involved and get hands-on.
Yeah.
And we needed this golden ring as part of the design, and we couldn't find fabric that we liked. So one of the ladies just crocheted a bit. It was just such a lovely day. And then we went across to visit the Paralympic Heritage Trust and see the finished banner at the end of it as well. So went a couple of weeks later to their family open day in July. So it's been a lovely experience, really, really good. And it's taught quite a few people how to make a Dorset button as well, which is always a nice thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So is that something that you would be kind of keeping your eye out again for similar opportunities? Because I think that was like the first time you'd done something like that, wasn't it?
Oh, it totally was.
Yeah.
And it was one of those, really, as all of these things end up being kind of random. It turns out that one of the trustees of the organisation of the charity had been to an Indian block printing workshop at my studio years ago.
Right.
And so she'd kind of put my name into the hat. But I'd be willing to do it again. It was very different to what I normally do, but really good fun. And I'd definitely be open to hosting a project of that nature again, something community based. If the opportunity ever came up, definitely be up for giving it a go. So you never know what's in the future, do you? So,
well, you don't.
Definitely.
You don't know who's going to pop up tomorrow with some random thing. That's
really
the thing.
don't.
You really don't, do you, at all? So, and then the other thing you were looking forward to was a couple of like open studio sessions that were coming up that you had kind of planned in, and we're looking forward to those. So, how did they go, Hannah?
Yeah, so there was two that I'd committed to do. We're on the border of different counties, so I sneak into the Buckinghamshire Open Studios event, and that one's in June, and that worked really well for me. And it was my first time with the Northamptonshire Open Studios. That one for me didn't go quite as well. I think it was probably the time of year. That's in September, and it kind of coincides with getting the kids back to school and that sort of thing. And I don't think my head was really in the game to make the most of it. But any of these things are a great way of meeting potential new contacts, new customers, and it's a good way of getting your name out there in a different way. So I think if you are, I think it's one of those things that's definitely worth a go, and maybe just from time to time getting involved in your local open studios if you can, because it is lovely to build your network with other artists in different medium as well.
It seems to be, because they also seem to be more of them and more popular, if that's not the right word, but there's certainly more of them. I know, obviously I'm in East Yorkshire, there's there's local ones, East Yorkshire studios. There was a big one. Now North Yorkshire is a big county, and a few people who are known, a couple of previous guests were involved in that, and there was a website and a booklet, and it was all sorts of different artists. So I think networking and if there's something with a booklet as well, or a website, small link, it's more exposure, and give it a try, I would say. So that's
absolutely
interesting what you were saying about, and sometimes we just have to think, I can't do everything, and if there's something cropping up in September or like exam time or whatever, sometimes you just have to think, well, I give it a try, and do you know what, I spreaded myself a bit too thin that time, so make a note in my diary for next time what I would do differently, or whatever. So
that's a really good point, Sue. I must write that down, actually, because my eldest is GCSE year next year, so I definitely don't want to be doing anything on May or June next year, do I? So
and now a problem is down to this same thing about time, isn't it? We were both having a bit of a laugh at really recently how pathetic we've been in actually doing our own art and our own textile work. But I believe you were telling me all about this diversity quilt that you were beavering away on. So the $1 million question, did it get finished?
Yes, it did. I was really strict with myself, and I blocked out several days. I was like, no, not doing anything else. That's making time. I'd been thinking about it for so long. I had all the ideas about what I wanted to incorporate. And I think working on the Paralympic project kind of helped cement some of those ideas as well. So I'd got all of these ideas about representing people in different ways, and trying to bring in that kind of the sort of pride flag, the idea that everybody, different colours, different representations, different genders. Everybody is inclusive. And I called the quilt in the end, I called it Everyone's Welcome. And I was really pleased with the results. And I'm really pleased that it's been shortlisted for the all of these quilts are going off on a little tour for various different exhibitions with the Quilters Guild, and I'm really pleased that mine made the top 20 that will go to the smaller venues. So I'm really chuffed with it. So I'm really glad that I made the time.
And isn't that nice that it tied in with the completely unrelated when the events happened, but it tied in really well with the Paralympic aspect of diversity and inclusion in sport and all those kind of things. So
absolutely.
Isn't that lovely?
It really is. So you just don't know what's going to kind of sort of link together through life. So
no, you don't. And I've now a little bird has told me you were telling us this brilliant story about your quilt from Boundaries that you made a long time ago and has had really lovely travels around Europe, and I believe it's off on its holidays again.
I know. So it had come home, I think, the last time I spoke to you, and it's been sitting in the corner of the studio there. And then I had an email about a month ago from a lady called Carol, who coordinates the European Quilt Association for the UK, and she said, "Oh, would you be willing for your quilt to go off again?" So I've got to package it up, and it's off to Italy for the spring. So lucky thing. I wish I could go with it.
I know. I was just thinking, there was the thing of air miles. This has got quilt miles, hasn't it? It must be doing really well. Quilt miles, right. So that was a good thing. And then really we've just been looking. Your social media focus had really paid dividends, and as you said, you used the word transformational in your business. So how are we going with that? And, what are you looking forward to for 2024 then, Hannah, since here we are in December?
No, 2024, my goodness me. I'm really pleased to say that the kind of the groundwork that I did with the consultant I was working with has really bedded in. So
I'm great.
I don't struggle anymore with trying to think of things to put on social media. I'm even starting to get a little bit more confident about making reels and videoing things.
Brilliant.
So that's really good, and it's helped build the business. It's meant that as I'm trying new things, and one of the things I've always wanted to do is to invite artists into the studio. I invited an artist from Lincolnshire in to do a wet felted bird sculpture day. And the links that we'd got through social media meant that it was a really successful day, and we sold out all the tickets, and we had a fantastic day. And being able to post about it afterwards has meant there's people interested for her to come again next year. That's one thing to look forward to. And I've also because that works so well, I've felt confident to invite some other artists in. So I've actually got 2 people who are previous guests of this podcast.
Oh, how exciting.
I know. So I've got Anne Kelly coming in February. And Jayne Emerson, who's going to be doing water-soluble weaving and jelly plate printing with us in April. So I'm really super excited about that one too.
Oh, both of those will be brilliant. And I do know that Jayne's like a bit obsessed with jelly printing and water-soluble stuff at the minute as well. And I actually bumped into her at the Knitting and Stitching show in Harrogate last month. So it was brilliant to meet her in real life as well. What brilliant workshops. Right, crikey, everybody, get on Hannah's list because they will be sold out. That's a fact. So
hopefully they will. So there's lots of exciting things.
Yeah, brilliant. So that's really great. Must feel really kind of comfortable and confident moving into the new year. You've got some great things booked in. You've got things that are already sold out. That's a really great place to be, isn't it, Hannah?
But it's certainly the first time that this has ever happened. So I quite often run a little discount for my birthday in December to just sort of kickstart the year. And certainly this year is not one that I need to do that for. So there will be a little discount, but it will be on the retail side of things, on crafty kits and haberdashery and that sort of thing. So I'm really pleased. I think it definitely has been a transformational year, and I'm really looking forward to 2024. So
absolutely bet you are. Yes. Well, do you know, it's also, as we said right at the start of our chat, that I know you've been a Stitchery Stories listener for a very long time, and do you know what, it's really brilliant that A, we've got to talk, but B, it's been a time where, as you've called it, a truly transformational year, which has kind of brought your story, giving it a lot of power, I think, as well, Hannah. So,
thanks, Sue.
I'm so pleased that we, A, finally got this out of my hard drive, B, that I pressed record. And I think really, although it's only about 2:30, do you know, I think I might need a wine or a sherry or something. Or some fresh air.
It's just made me think it's the equivalent of running along with your sewing machine without the bobbin working, isn't it?
That is exactly what it is. Right, Hannah, I shall leave you to it. I know you've got 1,000,001 things to do, and here we go, off into 2024. It's been lovely talking to you.
All right, thanks so much, Sue. All the best.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, then please join the Stitchery Stories fan club so you can get an email when a new episode is released. It's a quick and easy way of listening and of keeping up with any news and information around this podcast. Please visit stitcherystories.com. Of course, you can listen to Stitchery Stories on plenty of podcast apps at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify and plenty more besides. You can also ask your smart speaker to play Stitchery Stories podcast too. But wherever you listen, why not leave us a rating and a review to encourage other people to listen too? I very much appreciate you taking the time to do that for me. So that is the end of our Stitchery story for today. Keep stitching, keep smiling, and keep creating your very own Stitchery Stories.